Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Welcome. My name is Avram Mlotek. I'm a rabbi, a grandchild of Holocaust refugees and survivors, and grew up singing Yiddish songs, part of the family business, as we like to call it. The nigun that I just sang is called the Vashiva Nigun. It's a street tune that was sung on the streets of Warsaw before World War II and even during World War II, and it can be heard during Molly Picken's Yidel Mitten Fiedel song. And there, when it's played, it has a certain upbeat energy to it. But I find the song so haunting and the melody so haunting as I try to imagine what the streets of Warsaw, especially during World War II, must have felt like. Passing Jews on the street, maintaining a whole different type of social distancing and physical isolation. I begin with a nigun, with a melody, because our session for the next 20 or so minutes will be about spiritual resistance during this time of the coronavirus, a time where so many people are dying, so many people are sick, loved ones are in pain and in spiritual despair. And I begin with a nigun, with a melody, because the power of the melody, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi would say, is that it can enter the soul in ways that words cannot. That's the power of music. That's the power of a tune. And so, while the melody might be a little bit complicated, I'm going to sing it again, and I hope that you'll join me wherever you are, humming or drumming, strumming along. Maybe close your eyes even. Try to imagine what it must have been like to walk through the streets of Warsaw singing this song. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I die, die. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I die, die. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I die, da 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 die, die. I die, 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 die. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I die, die. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I die, die. I die, 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 die. I da 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 die, I da 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 die, die. I die, 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 die. Thinking today of Warsaw, and the Warsaw Ghetto in particular, because yesterday we celebrated Rosh Chodesh, the new month, the beginning of a new month of Nisan, which is the holiday, the month that welcomes in the holiday of Pesach, of Passover, and it was on Erev Pesach, on Seder night, that the Warsaw Ghetto uprising took place. And I try to imagine what it must have felt like to be a Jew with Passover on the horizon during that time of such unspeakable horror. Today, we're thinking about what it will be like to spend Seders in isolation, separated from our families. In fact, the first Seder, the Torah tells us, was also spent in isolation, as the Israelites were trapped inside lest the angel of death, the Malach HaMaves, passed over their homes. But I try to imagine what it must have felt like to live in Warsaw at that time, and to feel like such an integral link of Jewish history was happening, that we were living amid Jewish history. And the truth is, we are living amid Jewish history today too. I was speaking with a student of mine recently, and she said, I sometimes wish that I wasn't living through history. I wish I could have a couple of years of calm and quiet. And I'm not sure we're ever not living through history, frankly. But I was struck by that desire. It resonates. And so I'm going to share just a verse from Binim Heller's legendary poem in Varshavia Ghetto, is It's Chodesh Nisan. In the Warsaw Ghetto, it's now the month of Nisan. With a little translation here that I crafted. It's a poem that documents what that Seder night must have felt like. In Varshavia Ghetto, is It's Chodesh Nisan. In the Warsaw Ghetto, it's now the month of Nisan. Over goblets of borscht, matzah of clay, the people again sing of the miracles of old. How the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, left Egypt. How old is the story, how ancient the melody. Only now, by hidden windows, does the Seder continue, and truth and lies become blurred. Kol dichvin, let all who are hungry, by covered windows and doors. Kol dichvin, let all who are hungry, and the children scream from hunger. Elijah's goblet is full, as always, the German language of marching, but no, the ghetto will not hear more of the curses of Nazis that are transporting Jews. We will again wipe the doorposts with blood of the free, with blood of the last. Powerful words by Binim Heller. Try to imagine what it might have been like to live in that time of unspeakable horror. I invite us into that type of imaginative exercise, because while things might feel as despairing as they do when you read the news and bombarded with news updates today. As a student of history, for me, I find it so important to be connected to the stories of my ancestors and try to imagine what their stories and struggles must have been like, what brought them hope, what brought them healing. I think of the mystical tradition, Hasidus. Hasidus, it believes that everything in this life has an inner life and an inner essence. I think of the Eish Kodesh, the Piasetzner Rebbe, who was a rabbi during the Warsaw Ghetto, who shared a remarkable piece of Torah in 1941, and his collection of sermons, of Divrei Torah, of speeches, were collected and buried in canisters and were later found after the war. And so you have to imagine going to a shul on Shabbos and getting to hear the Eish Kodesh speak. The Eish Kodesh was a pedagogue. He wrote before the war Chovat HaTalmidim, and a treatise on how to learn for both teachers and students. And he continued to write and continued to speak publicly and to teach even during the war. And for some of us, that might seem like an impossible feat, a ridiculous feat. There's suffering and death around us in every waking moment. How do you learn? How do you go to shul? How do you keep up any type of semblance of normalcy when the environment that you're living in is anything but that? But therein lies spiritual resistance. That is, to hold on to your basic humanity, to hold on to those parts of yourself that make you yourself, even though you may feel like going insane. And so the Eish Kodesh, the Piasetzner, writes, "For in every redemption we must thank God and sing songs before God." This is 1941 in the Warsaw Ghetto. "For songs and gratitude elicit even more redemption." It's a powerful, powerful idea that through singing, through this act of spiritual resistance, we can tap into a certain type of geula, a certain type of redemptive spirit. So that's what we're going to do a little bit going forward. We're going to sing some more. I'll share a couple more words of Torah, maybe a story or two, and invite you to come into this time machine with me, into our people's past, to try to tap into the resources, the spiritual resources of our people. We have Torah, that sacred endeavor of soul learning, and we have nigun, melody. So this is a tune, and I hope you'll hum or drum along. I can't hear you. Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, bo lefana birnana, lefana birnana. Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, bo lefana birnana, lefana birnana. Tirina yada 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 yam hay yada tirina yada 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 yam yada tirina yada Yivdu es Hashem lefanav birnana lefana birnana. Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, bo lefana birnana lefana birnana. This part is very easy. Please sing along. Tidina yana 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 tidina yana 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 tidina yana yana. Those words, those last words that we sang, Yivdu es Hashem besimcha, come from the daily liturgy. Worship God with joy, besimcha, with joy, which might feel like a challenging task, especially in times like these. We'll put aside who, what, where, why, if God for the moment, and just accept the task of living a life of joy. And this is actually part of our daily liturgy, to live life with joy. And I think of the teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, the great Hasidic master. Rabbi Nachman would say Zaynit Meyayesh, which means despair not. He actually wrote, Ein shum yeosh ba'olam klal, there's no such thing as despair in the world, which at first glance is a preposterous claim. What does this mean, that there's no despair in the world? Of course there's despair in the world. And Rabbi Nachman, who lived when he lived, was certainly familiar with despair, whether it was the persecution of Jews or even in his own personal life. He lost a son. He was a manic depressant. So what do you mean there's no despair, Rabbi Nachman? Of course there's despair in the world, but what Rabbi Nachman is offering us is a spiritual outlook. Again, a form of spiritual resistance. living a life as if there weren't despair. That's not to avoid the emotional intensity that we might feel in any given moment, but it is a call to where we might consider placing our energies and our forces. What are the pieces of news, or who are the people that I'm going to connect to that are going to bring me hope, versus the people who might make me a bit more pessimistic. Rabbi Nachman wrote, "Know that the entire world is a narrow bridge, and the most important thing to recall is to have no fear." Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod, gesher tzar meod. Ve'ha'ikar, and the main thing is to recall, lo lefached, have no fear at all. And the main thing is to recall, have no fear at all. Ve'ha'ikar, lo lefached, lo lefached klal. Ve'ha'ikar, lo lefached klal. Tidirai-nai-nai-nai, Voltich gehat koyach, if only I had the strength. Voltich gelaufen in die Gassen, I would run in the streets. Voltich geschrien shalom, and I would cry peace. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Voltich gehat koyach, if I had the strength. Voltich gelaufen in die Gassen, I would run in the streets. Voltich geschrien shalom, and I would cry peace. Oh, shalom, shalom, shalom. Sing with me. If you don't have emunah, if you don't have faith together with gelt, with money, why work in this world? If you don't have bina and understanding together with money, what do you have against the world? If you don't have gemilus chasadim, acts of loving kindness together with money, why walk along this world? If you have no knowledge together with money, what do you need the whole world for? Als nicht keine Munde zusammen mit dem Geld, wo je habeste auf der Welt. Als nicht kein Biene zusammen mit dem Geld, wo je brauchst du die ganze Welt. Als nicht kein Gemiles Chassidim zusammen mit dem Geld, wo je gehst du auf der Welt. Als nicht kein das zusammen mit dem Geld, verwoje darfst du die ganze Welt. Ay, ya, da, 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 ya, da, 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 ya, da, 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 ya, da, di, da, da, ya, da, di, da, da, ya, da, da, da. If you have no holiness together with money, what are you buying in this world? If you have no rachmanis, compassion, or mercy together with money, what do you complain about the world? If you know Shmiras Shabbos, if you know Shabbos, respite together with money, where do you get your energy from in this world? And if you have no tmimis, no innocence together with money, what is your purpose in this world? Als nicht kein Kedische zusammen mit dem Geld, wo je kaufst du auf der Welt. Als nicht kein Rachmanis zusammen mit dem Geld, wo je reist du die ganze Welt. Als nicht kein Schmiede Schabes zusammen mit dem Geld, von wo schäbst du Chies auf der Welt. Als nicht kein Tmimis zusammen mit dem Geld, was is dein Tachlis auf der Welt? Ay, ya, da, 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 ya, da, di, 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 da, da, ya, da, 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 da. Sagt der Rebbe Moten you, a good morgen dir Gott and you. Nimm mal ab von uns dein Kasse, wenn Menton gendien wecke das. Nimm mal ab von uns dein Kasse, wenn Menton gendien wecke das. Oy, tzadikim, tzadikim gehen bom, Rishoim fang bom badam badi badi badam badim bayam badi da 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 dam bam 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 badam hadam badi da ya da da. Says Reb Matan, you, good morning, dear Lord, remove your wrath, and we'll serve you faithfully. How the tzaddikim ascend and how the rishoim fall deeper and deeper. Going to conclude with a story, and then maybe one last nigun, one last melody. The story is a story of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Jewish mysticism. The Baal Shem Tov was known to have supernatural powers. People would come to him from all walks of life to ask their questions. The Baal Shem Tov reinstituted the sacred role of song and dance and meditation into Jewish daily practice and life. And the story goes that a Yid once came before the Heilige Baal Shem, complaining, kvetching, as Yidden are sometimes tend to do. And this Yid's taina, his complaint was that all the years that he celebrated Pesach, Eliyahu Hanavi never showed up. Everyone knows that during Seder night, we open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi, and this particular Yid had been holding Seder, and yet Eliyahu hasn't shown. And so he goes to the Baal Shem and he complains. He says, I have matzah, I have everything that I'm supposed to have, technically speaking, so what gives? Why doesn't Eliyahu Hanavi show up? So the Baal Shem says, that's very interesting. I happen to know a family on the outskirts of town where every year without fail, as it happens, the Eliyahu Hanavi shows up. Elijah the prophet shows up. So you should go there as a guest, but don't tell them you're coming. Just show up ahead of time and be sure to bring extra boxes of matzah and wine and special Pesach treats. as you're showing up as a guest. So our cynical New Yorker, our cynical Yid, the Misnagid, he goes, he accepts the Baal Shem's task and mission, and he packs his wagon with matzahs and with wine, and he shows up at the outskirts of town, and he sees this dinky-looking shed where he sees a poor family lives, and he knocks at the door, and he invites himself in for Seder night. The family says, we don't have much, but you're more than welcome to join us. And he says, not a problem. I happen to bring kol minei machalim and treats. He's brought tons of foods and the like. And he sits and sings with the family as they celebrate Pesach night. And our friend is quite anxious. He's waiting for that moment after the meal, as we're all waiting for after the meal. But he has a particular goal in mind. He wants to meet Eliyahu Hanavi. And finally, that moment comes, and the children open the door. And sure enough, no one's there. So our cynical New Yorker, our Misnagid, is very suspicious. He's quite angry at this point and disappointed, but he doesn't let on. He doesn't tell the host. He doesn't want to embarrass them. Instead, he goes back to the Baal Shem, and he says, Baal Shem, Heilige Baal Shem, what gives? You told me to show up. I showed up just as you asked me to. I didn't tell the family. I brought wine. I brought the gifts. And Eliyahu Hanavi didn't show. And the Baal Shem is so strange. I'm not sure what happened. This has never happened, but you should go back again for Shvishal Pesach, for the later days, the end days of Pesach. And this time, be sure to bring extra wine and extra matzahs and extra gifts for the kids and extra food and treats for the family. And this time, before you knock, I want you to put your ear towards the door and just listen. So our cynical Misnagid New Yorker, he's frustrated, but he's heard of this Baal Shem, and he figures he might as well follow through. Shvishal Pesach comes, he saddles his wagon with more matzahs and gifts and wine and all different treats for Yontif. And he's about to knock at the door of the same poor family on the outskirts of town, when he remembers the Baal Shem's charge, which was to place his head by the door and listen. And he does so, and he hears crying from the inside, children weeping from hunger. And the parents try to console their children, saying, don't worry, last week God sent us Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. He'll surely send us Eliyahu Hanavi again. So the mashal from that story is quite clear, right? That each of us have the opportunity or the responsibility to be the type of change, to live out the type of redemption that we wish to see in the world. It can be a challenging task when we're isolated from each other, when we're physically isolated from each other. But if anything that these past couple of weeks have taught us and will continue to teach us is that we can use the internet for good. We can use our cell phones and our emails to check in on loved ones. We can reach out to people outside of our own Arba Amos, outside of our own 4 cubits, to those in need, whether it's donating to food pantries or homeless shelters or contacting isolated seniors. Remembering to take a breath. The sacred power of breath is that it reminds you that in this very moment, you're not under attack, though it might feel that you are under attack. It's the power of breath to center you and bring you back to this moment in time. Conclude with one last song. Shnira la Perla, String of Pearls. Mashiach ben David sitzt ibn non. He holds a goblet in his right hand and makes a blessing over the entire earth. Amen ve'amen das is vo. Let Mashiach come this year. If he comes in a carriage, there will be good years. If he comes riding on a horse, there will be good times. And if he comes by foot, then all Jews will return to the land of Israel. Schnirrele perele gilden efon, Moshiach ben David sitzt oben on, halt in der rechte Hand und macht a Broche auf dem ganzen Land. Oi, Amen, wie Amen, das ist Wort, Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr, hoi amen vi amen, das ist Wort, Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr, oi schnierele perele, gildene von, Moschiach ben David sitzt, Oim non halt a Becher in der rechte Hand und macht a Brache auf dem ganzen Land. Oi, Amen, wie Amen, das ist wahr. Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr. Oi, Amen, wie Amen, das ist wahr. Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr wird kommen zuvor, werden sein gute Jahren. Wird kommen zu reiten, werden sein gute Zeiten. Wird kommen zu gehen, werden die Jiden in Eretz Yisrael einstehen. Schnierele perele gildene von Moschiach ben David sitzt oim non, halt a Becher in der rechte Hand und macht a Brache auf dem ganzen Land. Hoi amen vi amen, das ist wahr. Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr. Hoi amen vi amen, das ist wahr. Moschiach wird kommen, heintigs Jahr. Good Shabbos, good Yor Alamin. May it be a restful and peaceful Shabbos, a rejuvenating weekend. Remember to take your breaks from the news and stay safe and sanitized. It's been a pleasure. Seid gesund.